What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, August 16th, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:05 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East and from Europe. So yesterday there were reports of missile launches from Iran towards the Strait of Hormuz. No word yet on what they might have hit. And the commander of the Iranian military said any Iranian who kills an American soldier or captures an American soldier will receive a reward of $30,000. Wow. And last night, Romania reported a drone incursion into their airspace. They said that a Spanish fighter jet shot down a drone that breached their airspace. And North Korean soldiers crossed the DMZ line in the eastern part of the Korean peninsula last week. So that's very, very concerning. And on August 12th, the U.S. military conducted large-scale exercises simulating a nuclear war. Specifically, the U.S. military conducted exercises simulating a nuclear strike. The operation involved 3 E-4B aircraft known as Doomsday planes designed to operate in emergency and crisis situations. So this was the Skymaster day last week, which was Wednesday. We had all those Skymaster messages, the high priority nuclear codes, and then we had over 70 standard priority nuclear codes. The exercise scenario included a simulation of a nuclear attack on U.S. air bases and a subsequent retaliatory nuclear strike by the U.S. The exercises considered scenarios such as strikes on remote U.S. bases, a preemptive nuclear strike by the U.S., and the conduct of a low-intensity nuclear war. During the exercises, hundreds of strategic messages related to nuclear war and the use of conventional weapons were transmitted. Wow. And one worker was killed and several were injured as a result of an explosion at a refinery and fuel terminal operated by GUNNR Energy near the port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So we had this explosion at this fuel and oil refinery in the Netherlands the same day that there was that ammunition facility in Italy that caught fire, and that ammo facility produces medium to large caliber ammunition. So I don't think that's a coincidence, guys. I think these were Russian saboteurs. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova requested clarifications from Washington and Ankara regarding U.S. Congress documents detailing planned transfers of a significant offensive arsenal to Ukraine. The listed weapons include 12 multiple launch rocket systems, over 2,500 unguided cluster munitions, 47,000 cluster artillery shells of 203 millimeter, and 70 ATACMS missiles. Zakharova labeled the terms of the transfer highly contradictory, questioning who initiated the re-export and how delivery will be executed. She stated that opening this Pandora's box will only escalate casualties, directly undermining the diplomatic roles claimed by both nations. The spokeswoman noted that while these shipments will not impact the course of the war in Ukraine, they will inevitably damage bilateral relations with Moscow. Zakharova concluded that employing peacekeeping rhetoric while supplying lethal aid undermines mutual trust. Okay, so the U.S. providing Ukraine with tens of thousands of weapons, even though they're talking about peace. And then yesterday, the big news was that the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, accused the U.S. of helping Ukraine conduct deep strikes on Russia, including strikes in Moscow and St. Petersburg. An Italian Eurofighter Typhoon fighter jet assigned to NATO's Baltic air policing mission shot down a drone of unconfirmed but likely Russian origin after it entered Latvian airspace Friday, according to NATO and Latvian officials. 2 Italian Eurofighters scrambled from Lithuania along with 2 Turkish F-16s from Estonia. One of the Italian jets identified and engaged the drone. Latvian forces are now searching for the wreckage near Rugăji, about 35 kilometers from the Russian border. And the U.S. is reportedly asking NATO allies to document not just their defense spending, but their political alignment with the Trump administration as part of its review of the U.S. military presence in Europe, according to a reporting from Bloomberg. A questionnaire sent to NATO members asks whether governments have been publicly supportive of U.S. foreign policy, restricted U.S. military access to their bases purchased from U.S. defense contractors, or opposed Euro preference procurement rules. It specifically references restrictions imposed by allies on U.S. operations in the Middle East and asks whether those restrictions would be reduced or eliminated. The questionnaire comes as Washington considers major reductions to U.S. forces and wartime capabilities in Europe, with the review expected to conclude by December. Okay, so very, very interesting. And speaking of Russia, what you're looking at here is a picture of another Russian wild berries facility that was attacked by Ukrainian drones yesterday. And you can see just this massive plume of smoke and a massive fire. And this was in the Moscow region. Also, last night, we had this interesting Lithuanian border guard flight. This was a Lithuanian helicopter with their border guard, an Airbus H-135, and it was doing these low loops here right on the border of Belarus, and for some reason they were specifically focusing on this one particular area of the Lithuanian border with Belarus. So I don't know what was going on over here, but something had their attention specifically in this area. And the commander of U.S. Central Command completed a 10-day trip to the Middle East on August 15th that included visits to 6 countries and to a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier operating in the Arabian Sea. Admiral Brad Cooper met with senior civilian and military leaders in Bahrain, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, and spent time with deployed U.S. service members. So very interesting that suddenly the CENTCOM commander would make this 10-day trip and visit all the countries around the Persian Gulf. Very, very interesting. And family members of sailors aboard the USS Boxer deployed since March report severe supply shortages, including female hygiene products running out due to extended deployment with no port calls and undelivered care packages. A separate family member reports the Boxer was not originally intended for combat deployment, but was rerouted due to naval shortages. The ship, which is due for retirement after this deployment, has had no port stops for several months, with crew welfare and mental health described as a growing concern. And more than 1,300 Strava users have publicly logged workouts from U.S. military sites across the U.S. Central Command area, according to an investigation by Sky News. The exposure is particularly concerning because many of these installations have subsequently been targeted by Iran. At the Muwafaq al-Salti Air Base in Jordan, for example, personnel regularly posted runs around the installation. Activity resumed in April and later became concentrated around barracks. The housing area was struck in July, killing 3 U.S. soldiers. The issue isn't new. In 2018, Strava's public heat maps exposed previously undisclosed military locations and details about base layouts. The Pentagon subsequently prohibited personnel from using geolocation features on personal or government devices. CENTCOM has since issued additional OPSEC guidance, including restrictions implemented when Operation Epic Fury began. Yet publicly available Strava data shows personnel are still exposing their locations. Wow. And video footage has emerged showing Saudi-backed Yemen government forces bombing Houthi positions along a frontline area. And on Saturday, 3 separate drones from the Russia-Ukraine war were discovered in Turkey. The wreckage of a drone fell into a garden in the Turkish Black Sea province of Dujci. A GUNNR drone was found on Yenikoi Beach in the Turkish province of Istanbul, and drone wreckage was found on the Black Sea coast of the Turkish province of Sakarya. So Turkey is now feeling the heat from this war. And Iranian officials accused Qatar of holding 3 Iranian military pilots who went missing after their aircraft were downed in March, confirming that Iranian aircraft violated Qatari airspace. Qatar has rejected the claim, saying the aircraft violated sovereign Qatari airspace and that Qatari authorities attempted to contact the aircraft but received no response. Qatar says that necessary measures were taken to defend our territory. Wow, very interesting. And Turkish President Erdogan stated that Egypt could join the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement signed by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, which stipulates that an armed attack against one is treated as an attack against all. So this is becoming the new Middle East NATO, started by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, and soon Egypt is going to be joining. So it looks like the foundation for the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war is starting. And there was a drone strike in Libya yesterday that caused a power plant to go down, resulting in a regional power outage. Very interesting. And there was an incident between Hezbollah and Israel yesterday. At approximately 02:30 on Saturday, a Hezbollah explosive drone struck an IDF commando brigade operating in the Ali Tahrir Ridge area of southern Lebanon, resulting in the severe injury of 1 officer and 2 soldiers. The IDF stated that fighter jets conducted retaliatory strikes against Hezbollah infrastructure in Nabatieh and a central command headquarters in Ansar, resulting in the elimination of a Radwan force battalion commander alongside several other militants. And the South Korean President Lee is calling for peace talks with North Korea to replace the armistice. So if you guys are not aware, North Korea and South Korea have never ended the Korean War officially. Okay, they're still in a state of war. They just have a ceasefire, an armistice. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung used his Liberation Day speech to urge Pyongyang to enter dialogue for peaceful coexistence, proposing the replacement of the 1950 to 1953 war's armistice with a formal peace regime. Lee emphasized that Seoul would pursue preemptive safeguards to ease regional tensions and explore diplomatic avenues to curb North Korea's nuclear capabilities. And speaking of North Korea, Trump posted this to his social media yesterday. He wrote, "Despite the unfriendly look on this particular picture, there are many where we're smiling. Kim Jong-un and I get along great," and he put great in caps lock. So Trump sharing a picture from when he met Kim Jong-un at the DMZ in Korea. Very, very strange. And the Ebola outbreak in the Congo is out of control, according to local health officials, and the worst projections are becoming reality. World Health Organization officials estimate at least one death occurs every 30 minutes because of the Ebola virus in the Congo. Wow. And the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to allow construction of the White House's $400 million ballroom to continue while it appeals a lower court ruling that halted the project. The D.C. Circuit ruled 2-1 that Trump cannot proceed without congressional approval, finding that the president lacks unilateral authority to build the 90,000 square foot structure where the East Wing once stood. The administration argues the project is necessary for White House security, calling the injunction unlawful and warning that stopping construction would leave an active construction site that is harder to secure. The appeals court had exempted work necessary for White House safety. The Supreme Court is being asked to act before the lower court's ruling takes effect on August 21st. So, very interesting. I think they're building a bunker there under the East Wing, and I think the bunker is going to lead out to one of the secret tunnels under D.C. so the president can safely evacuate in the event of an attack on D.C. And 5 people were injured in a shooting involving multiple shooters near a residence hall at Virginia State University early Saturday. Police responded around 1:30 a.m., finding 5 people with gunshot wounds. 1 victim is in critical condition. 4 others suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Only 1 victim has been confirmed as a VSU student, with investigators believing the others may be from the surrounding community. So very strange situation there. Here's another picture shared by Trump on his Truth Social account showing him riding a horse with George Washington. Totally insane delusions of grandeur here. And then also here's a picture he shared of him wearing a Trump 2028 hat generated by AI. So he keeps hinting at 2028 like he's not going to leave office. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with another update. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a major sale on their 4-week emergency food supplies. And to get the deal, you got to use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com. The link is in the description down below. But you're going to get 2 4-week emergency food supplies for $416. That's 2 months of emergency food for $400. Where you're going to find a deal like that? This is freeze-dried food, has a 25-year shelf life, packed in 4 rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space. So even if you live in a tiny apartment, you can still prep and have 2 months of food for just $400. Use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.